The transition to university for a young person can be a very defining and self-reflexive experience. In this time, the young person is faced with inventing themselves and discovering who they are as they shift into adulthood. The ways or pathways that lead a young person to university can take many forms and are often influenced, like many other important events in one's life, by critical moments. Critical moments are such events that alter former understandings and meanings of a person's life. These moments are when the person evaluates the results and consequences of certain actions or decisions, and usually take the form of an event where the person is at a metaphorical crossroad and are forced to make a life-altering decision. From these moments, a person's reflexive project of self can be reshaped and formed to lead new results in the person's life. Michelle is an example of such through her transition to university. She is from a middle-class family which placed many expectations upon her. With her high school education, she went to a relatively good private school and was expected, like most middle-class girls of today, to continue her higher education into university. Her parents expected that she would achieve upwards social mobility through higher education, and that her physical mobility would not move beyond her current location, which in sociological terms define her mobility as localism in the form of an attached stayer. However, Michelle had different ideas. She perceived herself as a detached stayer, feeling trapped in her current location, and longed for a more cosmopolitan lifestyle. This led her to rebel and transfer to being a detached leaver, never wanting to return home. This was the first critical moment that shaped her life. The second came in a family tragedy, which forced her to reevaluate her reflexive project of self and think rather in long-term consequences, so to fulfill her family's wishes.
Ever since I was a child, my life had been set out for me. I was to attend a prestigious school, I would study a minimum of 4 hours a day, I would achieve high grades, I would go to university, and one day I would become a lawyer. In other words, I was expected to live the life that my parents had lived. As a teenager, I was pressured into being someone before I had the chance to figure out who I truly was. Once I had told my parents of my dream to travel after school, but my idea was rejected as silly, and I was told there would be no time for travel with the intense degree I was going to be doing. I made a mental note to never mention my dream to them again, but I still had the desire to leave. I didn't have a lot of time for friends as I had a strict study schedule enforced by my mother, and after 12 years of schooling I achieved the grades my parents had anticipated, but not without making some of my own hidden decisions. I had secretly planned to backpack across Europe, and I bought a ticket for a one-way flight that was due to leave the first day after graduation. After leaving a note and catching an early train to the airport, I was well on my way to freedom. As I travelled, I learnt, I laughed, I rebelled, and I had never felt more alive. But every day I thought of my parents at home, who were probably furious with me. After 8 months of travelling, I received a call that would change my life forever. I have never felt more alone than the day that I learnt my parents had died. A car crash had taken their lives as they were driving home, and they were both killed instantly from a head-on collision with a truck. A day later I was flying home to an empty house and a funeral to plan. I entered a home filled with memories and loneliness, and a constant thought in my head that I had let my parents down. After the funeral I knew I couldn't go back to travelling. It was time for me to do what my parents had always wanted me to. I have been enrolled into Griffith University for 6 months now, doing a Bachelor of Law, and I have loved every minute of the course. I know my parents would be so proud of me, and I think about them every day.